My name is Dr. Nava Israel. I am the next guest on this wonderful show, and I will tell you about a book that I wrote and a model that I've developed that can open all our eyes to systems that control us and how to get the hell out of them.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another enlightening episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have the distinct pleasure of holding Dr. Nava Israel. Now, Doctor, how are you doing today?
I am well, thank you, Prosper. And yourself?
I am doing I'm doing fantastic. I can't wait to dive into your work and everything else that you have been doing in order to help people toward a better future. So thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
It is absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for hosting me.
Absolutely. Now, for those that are tuning in for the very first time, I want you to meet Dr. Nava Israel, a name that resonates with innovation, resilience, and a profound commitment to societal transformation. Now, I want you to imagine a journey that transverses a lot of continents, embraces change, and that change is embraced with open hearts. And it actually culminates in groundbreaking insights that actually challenge the fabric of our daily lives. And that's the journey that Dr. Nava took, and she's going to be exploring with us today. So she's an award-winning author, entrepreneur, and a consultant, and she holds a PhD in epidemiology. I promised myself I was going to say this correctly, Doctor, but hey, you're here to teach us all about these things. So, but beyond all of these accolades, she's a philosopher at heart, driven by I think an insatiable curiosity about science, human behavior, and social justice. And her mission is to awaken us from a system-induced slumber and actually foster environments that are rich in open-mindedness, wisdom, and compassion. Now, this is not a feat to just talk about on a show like this. This is her life. She embodies it. If you see behind her, it's walls upon walls of books, trying to learn, figure things out, and also find ways that can help us, like she says, leave this world in a better shape than we found it. Now, Dr. Nava, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to talk about. Can you maybe share with us maybe the beginnings of your life and career before you actually started this current path? What actually inspired you to then take such a significant change in your journey?
Sure. Thank you so much. Yes, a journey of 6 decades started in what was then called the Soviet Union. So it was the communist behind the Iron Curtain, where I grew up as a child, and for some reason, I never bought into the narrative. It always seemed strange to me, the propaganda, the lies on TV. It was always strange to me that so many people around me were all mesmerized and all loyal and believing in these things, whereas I was looking at it and saying, this is wrong. This is so weird. And then we immigrated with my family at great peril to ourselves, leaving the communist Russia. And we moved to Israel, which was our ancient homeland. But, being an immigrant as a child and as an adult is always a challenge. If you have never immigrated to another country, it is difficult to imagine what it is like to go through this transformation where you have to learn a new language, where you have to understand a new culture, where you have to adapt, where you start losing who you are, or trying to figure out who you are, and then you see other things. And that was my life's journey. Wherever I went and whatever I've done, because later on I immigrated with my own family and 2 kids to Canada, which is where I live right now, have been living for the last 25 years. So again, a new culture, new patterns, sorry, a new language. And yet, throughout everything that I've done, both personally, family wise, academic, there have been these pieces of a pattern that kept recurring and recurring and reemerging. And throughout my life, I was like, what is this pattern? And why does it keep leading to situations and to systems that are not friendly to us, that are dysfunctional, that are oppressive, that are racist, that are destructive, creating poverty, creating hatred, creating separation? What is it in us as human beings that has us build and rebuild systems that don't work well for us, that actually harm us? As I progressed with my life, I chose a profession. Initially, I was a clinical dietitian, so a healthcare profession, because I had this passion, as Prosper said, to leave this world a better place than I'd found it. And one of the ways was to heal people or to help people improve their health. So I worked for 20 years in my profession, and I did my PhD in epidemiology, which is basically the statistics of health. But if you're seeing the thread here, statistics is actually finding patterns in a quantitative way. So you see a phenomena and you want to understand, you want to explain it, you want to see what predicts it. That's epidemiology. And so I did the PhD in that, and it added more tools and more skills. And then when I moved to Canada, I still practiced my profession, but then I have encountered another thing that I could contribute to and change. So I left my profession and I've done something completely different, which is supporting immigrants like myself in their journey in Canada, to help them integrate in society, to help them find meaningful jobs. So I worked with colleges and universities and government agencies and professional associations to create fair systems that would improve the way that we immigrants build a home in a new home. Because I think that is part of society, is when you invite immigrants in, or when you get refugees, right? It doesn't matter in what way people are coming, legal or illegal. Like, to me, the word illegal is ridiculous. I don't think there's such a thing as an illegal person. A person is a person, you know. So when people move to another country, it is the responsibility of that country to embrace you, to help you integrate in the best way possible, not to dissolve, but to integrate and add your own richness of thoughts and culture into the existing one, so that there is this beautiful multicultural tapestry that actually works. And we saw what happens in societies where immigrants are marginalized, they are left outside of society, they are being discriminated. It breeds hatred, it breeds anger, and it doesn't help anyone, not the host country, not the immigrants. So that's what I did for many, many years. And from that as well, I have seen these patterns, no matter where people came from, because I've been working with people from all over the world for years and years. And I have seen that same pattern recurring and recurring until about 6 years ago. You know how a light bulb lights up like in the comics, boing! you
Yeah.
know, I had that moment of epiphany where all these thousand pieces that I've been collecting and witnessing my whole life suddenly fell into a pattern. And this pattern, this model was so simple and so intuitive and so profound that I thought this must be shared with the world because it's simple, because it's intuitive, because it touches each and every one of us. Not a single individual in the world escapes that model.
Mm.
And once we understand it, we can unpack it, dump it,
Absolutely.
and do better. And
Nice.
so I wrote my book. This is my 30 seconds of commercial. I wrote my book, which is called CONEtrolled. And the reason it's called CONEtrolled, it's not a typo, it's because the model is shaped as a cone, and it is a system of control. And and here's the model. Can I? Is that okay if I
That's
explain it
fine. That's
now?
absolutely what I am intrigued, and thank you so much for taking us through this whole journey because it really showcases the tapestry of your eagerness to learn and also pattern recognition. I mean, as human beings, if we don't notice patterns, we do not survive. And that's how people farm, that's how people hunt, and that's how people actually know how to connect with their environment because of pattern recognition. And it's one of the things that you show in spades. But let's go back a little bit to young Miss Nova, who, like you said, as a kid, you felt, first of all, like, nothing made sense around you. Was that just another thing that was happening, or even maybe your siblings or other kids in your environment shared the same sentiments?
So I'm an only child, so I had no one to compare to. I do have cousins that I grew up with, but it always seemed to me that I was the weird one. I
Right.
was the one with the difficult questions. I was the one who refused to take things at face level. Um, I remember. I'll give you a funny example. Um, when I was in kindergarten in Russia, there was, in kindergarten, usually you have the drawings of children on the walls and all that, but not in communist Russia. In a communist country, you have the very big portrait of Lenin hanging on the wall. And that portrait of Lenin was depicting him sitting and writing at his desk. And he had books behind him, very educational. And so I remember our kindergarten teacher saying us every day, look, children, at Lenin. He sits and studies day and night. He never gets up from his desk. He always studies. And I was like, to myself, right? Because you can't say it out loud. I was like, well, that's dumb. Of course he sits there day and night. It's a painting, you know, give me a break. This is ridiculous.
Right, right.
So I don't know. I think that some people are born with this emotional immune system
Mm.
where you see through the veil, right? You just don't take things the way they are presented to you. You have to ask the difficult questions. And I must tell you something very interesting that I've discovered only in the last maybe 2 years, because in my generation that grew up through 60s and 70s and 80s, we didn't know much about it. And in fact, most people still don't know much about it. And that's neurodivergence. And neurodivergence means that your brain is wired differently, your body actually is wired differently. And I've learned that I am on the spectrum of autism. And and most people, when I say that, they say, you autistic? That makes no sense. You're so successful, you're educated, you write books, you manage programs, like, look at you, you raise the family, like this, it makes no sense. But what people don't understand is that neurodivergence comes in, is on a spectrum, and it comes in different ways. One of the things that is interesting is that is this immunity against bullshit.
Mm.
And that is the gift of people on the spectrum, even though in our society they are considered weird or even disabled. But the reality is that these are the people who can see through lies. They can see through deception. They are the people who ask the difficult questions. And that's why many times they are being mocked and excluded and seen as, unfitting. So I think that that type of disability actually was my gift, to help me see through these, what I call, planned bullshit, where systems around us tell us things, and most people take them just as they are. And sometimes it takes a little bit of courage or a little bit neurodivergence to call bullshit on them and to
Mm.
say, this is not true. This is a lie. This is propaganda. You're saying or doing it because you're profiting from it, not because you want my best interest. And then people like me are called conspiracy theorists.
I love that, Nava. But obviously, with all of this, and thank you so much for bringing light to something that a lot of people, try to hide. And you've literally just given a lot of people permission that yes, you could be on a different spectrum and very successful and be able to live, a happier existence without the label of it being such, a disability and things of that nature. But when you were growing up, obviously you started noticing these things that did not
Mhm.
seem correct in line with what, the actual truth is, because there
Yes.
is certain things that are said or done in a way and a means to put people in a certain line of being, and yet there's an ultimate truth. Was that the same when you moved to Israel? Since, I mean, obviously your family moved to that place. Was that
Mhm.
you having left Russia? Did you find that in Israel, or was that a whole different experience in and of itself again?
Different and the same, because we are all humans and we all make the same mistakes, right? So in Israel, for example, the first shock for me was seeing religion, because as you may know, in communism, any religion was forbidden, although communism itself was a form of religion, right?
Yeah,
It's
is
what
it?
I call a cone. And a cone is a cult. It's a religion. It's the thing that you can't speak against, that you have to revere and worship. So it's just another shape of it, right? But that's where I first encountered religion. And as immigrants, we were put in this immigrant neighborhood in a very poor city. And it was bordering a big neighborhood of ultra Orthodox Jews. Now, I've never seen in my life Orthodox Jews. In fact, when I grew up, I didn't even know that I'm Jewish, because my parents didn't want me to get beaten up at school by children finding out that I'm Jewish. And so when I came to Israel, it didn't really matter to me, like my nationality or my religion. It meant nothing to me. And then I went on one of the holidays to a synagogue of this ultra Orthodox Judaism. And it was a shock to me because not only did they dress weird for me, but also the complete separation between men and women.
Right.
Men sitting at the front praying, women behind a big curtain, like this, like a quarantined, diseased group, not, with wigs, not allowed to show their hair, long skirts, not allowed to show their leg. Like, all of these things were so enraging for me, especially as a woman. I think women in general around the world, no matter which nationality or religion, women experience these oppressive systems usually more than men. And of course, especially women of color, or women of marginalized religions experience it exponentially worse. And as a woman, it offended me that there is this whole system that treats me like I'm dirty, like I'm less, like I'm undeserving, right? And again, it was that same pattern, because in communism it wasn't that, it was something else. It was, if you had other ideas about how life should be managed, how government should be managed, if you opened your mouth and said, I have a better idea, very quickly you would disappear, right? So it's that same oppressive system. And then I grew up, and in Israel, I served in the military, as all Israelis do. And I was an officer. And again, the military system is another cone. It is another system that works in a very regimented way for a reason, but again, it was the exact same pattern, the exact same behaviors of top down, of silencing, of control. And then we moved to Canada, and you're like, well, Canada is the nicest country in the world, It is officially the nicest country in the world. We have abundant usage of the word sorry, uh, you know, um, and it is a peace-seeking nation. But wherever you find systems, you will find cones. But it's not just big systems. It's not just governments or religions. We actually find it on every single level of our lives.
Mm.
So think a couple or a relationship, a partnership. It can be a business partnership, a romantic partnership, a life partnership. If it is a healthy relationship, it's wonderful, right? There's a give and take and there's a collaboration. But what happens when it is a controlling relationship? When it is an abusive relationship? When it is a relationship with a narcissist? That's a cone. And you're saying, okay, sometimes you're looking at people who live in abusive relationships. And you're like, can't you see it? Can't you see that your partner is abusing you? Can't you see how he's controlling or she's controlling you? Can't you see how they manipulate you, how they belittle you, how they gut you from your confidence and self-worth? But what you will find in most cases is that the victim of that abusive relationship, or the partner who is being controlled and abused, doesn't know it and doesn't acknowledge it. They
Mm.
protect their abusers. They take the blame for everything wrong that wrong in that relationship because they are being told that it's their fault. Everything that happens is their fault. Even women who are being battered by their partner, sometimes to death, right? Some are afraid to leave because they know if they will leave, that partner will find and kill them. But many don't leave because they have this Stockholm syndrome of, I worship my abuser, right? This is a mini model of the cone. And,
Right.
and that same model you will find on a family level, you will find on a community level, on a religion level, on a toxic organization level, on a global financial system level, on modern medicine level, on the educational system level. It's the exact same pattern.
Absolutely. And yeah, I really love where this is leading to. And with what you're saying, I mean, there's people that you see in relationships and you can see that, wait a minute, they actually don't really need to be together. Sometimes I start thinking maybe one of them did something really, really bad, like maybe murdered someone, and they're afraid if the other one leaves, then they're gonna snitch on them on the cops or something like that. But like you said, it's called Stockholm syndrome. So you moved from Russia, which was, the communist. So that was the political side of things, that a system was prevalent. Then you move to Israel, where religion took center stage, and then, as if that was not enough, you coupled that with military, which was also a rigid, set of systems in and of itself. What was it like in Canada?
Hmm. So just to clarify, so Israel does have the Orthodox religion, but it's a minority.
Right.
Most of Israel is fairly secular, so it's not all. It's just these systems that stuck out and
Yes.
military. But when I moved to Canada, um, I found, first of all, I just to qualify that, I love Canada. I love my life in Canada. Honestly, especially as an immigrant, I cannot think of a better country to immigrate. No offense to Australia, New Zealand.
We try, Nava. I think
Yeah, yeah,
we're,
yeah. We all try.
we're
Um, but again, the human factor is here, right? It is not. I love Canada because it's very. There is a fairly healthy combination of capitalism and socialism. It's the social democracy, in that there is free healthcare and free education and very strong social supports. But again, systems are systems.
mm,
So I've been working for universities, for example, and that's a system. It's an educational system, and it is a cone because it is set in its ways, because it's very difficult to change, because when you ask the difficult questions, you will get in trouble, because it's been doing what it's been doing for many years, and it is non-responsive necessarily to changing environments, which is one of the features of a cone, is that non-responsiveness to changing environments. And as we know, in Darwinism, people think that Darwin said that it's the survival of the fittest, but it's not true. That's a lie. That is not what Darwin said. He said it is the survival of those who adjust in the best way to change. It's the survival of the adjustable, not of the strong ones. Because if it were of the fittest, then we would still have dinosaurs. I mean, have you seen a dinosaur? They were huge. And yet they did not survive because they could not adjust to changes on Earth. So I think that one of the issues with these cones or these oppressive constructs is that they are non-responsive. They are non-responsive to changing environments, and they are not non-responsive to the people inside them. Think about a toxic organization, a workplace, right? Have you ever experienced a toxic workplace?
Well, it looks like that's what's every place that people subscribe to work, especially these days. Yes.
Yeah. And some are more and some are less. But definitely, if it is a big corporate, it can become quite controlling and toxic. Uh, and the way that you see this toxicity is that it is not responding to the suffering of its employees, right? The employees are only the means to their goal, and their goal is money. The
Mm.
goal is not changing the world for the better, even though it may say it in their statement, in their vision and mission. But if it's a corporate, especially publicly traded, where their purpose is only to make money for their shareholders,
Shareholders.
and they will do it at any cost, at anyone's cost. This is a classic cone where things are done for a purpose that does not serve the people who work for that purpose and is not responsive to a changing environment.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for bringing us, nicely, with the safe landing to the actual aspect of cones. And I viscerally believe, just listening to you, Dr. Nava, is you've experienced the politics, the military, the religion, also the health and relationships of all of those things for you to be the person that actually can give us a roadmap to what
Mhm.
systems can do and are limiting us from noticing. And if you also notice something that in every place that you went to, you were quick to identify the patterns that would obviously make you notice certain things that the people that are in that area wouldn't notice. So
Yes.
it's pretty safe to say fish do not see the water that they swim in, and neither can people see the air that they
Yeah.
breathe in. And I think the concept of cones, which obviously you've put together into a neatly package. I thought cones were ice cream cones, but from what you're saying, we're not leaking any sweet things here. Can you
Nope.
can you please explain this concept and how it actually
Yes.
manifests in everyday situations?
Absolutely. So here's how a cone is built. And as I speak, you will understand why it applies to every level of our lives. So the wide base of the cone is what I call the core certainties. These are the things that we are so sure about that we never question them. For example, our Earth is a sphere. It is not flat. Sorry, flat earthers. Not flat. It is a sphere. We are certain about it, right? We are taught at school that the Earth is just a big rock with life forms growing on it. That is a core certainty. We don't wake up in the morning and ask ourselves, is it a rock or is it not a rock? We know it because that's what we were told from childhood. But guess what? There are other people around the world who are saying, you're wrong. The earth is not a dead rock with life forms just glued to its surface. It is a living being. It is Gaia. The earth is conscious, and we are part of that consciousness. Now, you may believe in what you believe, but I'm just showing you that the people who are taught that it's just a rock, and that those who are saying that the earth is alive, that Mother Earth is a being, they're like the crazies, right? Because that's what our core certainties give us. They give us certainty that is non negotiable. And these certainties can be good, but they are also very limiting because we then never stop to examine them. And because then we dismiss people who have other core certainties different from our own. So, this is our foundation. We have these core certainties that we were taught that they are true from childhood. So think about people who grow up in religious communities. They learn that there is God and that this God sees them, tests them, and will punish them for their sins or whatever that religion teaches. There are many different ones. Or a philosophy of life, and you grow up with it and you don't question it. And it's so powerful that if you do question it, then your elders will put you in your place and say, you do not ask these questions. This is inappropriate, right? These are the things that we know. So here's your foundation that is unquestionable. Problem number one. Okay? On top, so then the next level, on top of our foundational beliefs, is problems. We all have problems. People have problems, They can be little problems, like my shoes are too tight on my feet, or they can be big problems, like I'm being discriminated or my life is in danger, or I'm so bored on Saturday night I could kill someone. So problems are different, but it's difficult to say that some problems are big and others are small, because problems are in the eyes of the beholder, right? For one person, sitting in traffic is an annoying problem, but it's not such a big deal. For the person next to them, they will go into a road rage and come out and shoot someone, right? So a problem is subjective. It is not objective. But we all have problems. And our problems are also guided by our core certainties. So, for example, if you were raised to believe that people who don't believe in your religion are sinners and they deserve to die because of that, then those people are your problem. You see? But if you were not raised in this belief, then people of other religions are not your problem at all. So even our problems are guided by the things that we were taught to believe in. Then the next level, on top of problems, are needs. Okay, now I have a problem. I'll give you an example. I have a headache. What do I need? What is my need?
That's a painkiller. You need a painkiller.
There you go. There you go. Problem, pain, need for the pain to go away, right? But is that the real need? Is that a problem or is that a symptom? And that is where we start failing, right? So first of all, our core certainties can be problematic. Then the way we see problems can be not exactly true. And then our needs tilt us sometimes in the wrong way. So I'll ask you that. If you have a headache and you take a painkiller, which is because the need is for the pain to go away, therefore the solution, which is the next layer of the cone, is a painkiller. Will it prevent tomorrow's headache?
It only works for today's pain, and when it's done, we wait for the next. Yeah, absolutely.
Because a headache is not the problem. A headache is a symptom of a problem. A headache doesn't come for no reason. It can be that you're dehydrated. It can be that you are stressed. You have not slept well. You may have a tumor, right, in your brain. There is a problem, a real problem that needs a solution. But because we confuse the symptom with a problem, we only treat the symptom. So we invest all our resources in developing top-of-the-line painkillers that do not solve our problems. They only solve our symptoms for a little while. And then we create stronger painkillers instead of saying, maybe you just need to drink water, But then here's where things become really complicated. Simple, but complicated. Once you create a solution, you're like, oh, I have this painkiller. Cool. Now I want to distribute it. I want to show others how good it is. I want to make money of it. And so you start creating a system around your solution, right? So think it comes from a wide base and it comes narrower and narrower and narrower, right? And the narrower is because now you have a system for the solution, and a system is a much more rigid structure. Now you employ people to do it. So you don't want to have them lose their jobs. So you maintain the system. Now you have a distribution system, you have a production system, you have a whatever is the system for your solution. Now the system becomes more important than the solution. Because what happens if you have a solution and you found that it doesn't work so well? You already have that system that works. Then you hide the facts that it doesn't work so well. And you create disinformation, and you silence those who ask the difficult questions, because now the system has become self-supporting, right? It has become conscious, I call it. It's a conscious, self-preserving system that no longer cares about solving the problems that it was created for. It just now exists to sustain itself. So I'll give you an example for an organization. So let's say that you have a startup, you developed some technology, and this technology is doing things, and your goal is to change the world with this technology. I don't know, advance medicine with it. I don't know, change people's accessibility or something. So you had a problem of accessibility. You came up with a solution of this software. Now you have a system, you have an organization, you hire people. But then the system is buggy. There are issues within your organization, but it's already here. You won't dissolve it. You will not stop and say, how do we change everything to make it better? No. Now you have to protect what you already have. There's no way back. Mm-hmm. And as you become more protective of the system instead of solving the problem, then the tip of the cone is the dogma. And the dogma is really where we lose all our freedom. So I will go back to the example of the abusive relationship. In an abusive relationship, the dogma is that the controlling partner is always right. If something bad happens, the controlling partner is the victim, even though they are the victimizer. The actual victim is always to blame, always needs to appease the controlling partner. That is the dogma. Now, the same idea take into cults. Cults are like poster children of cones. A cult works in a way where the participants are made to believe in these core certainties, that the leader is God or whatever. Their problem is society, and therefore they are isolated. Their need is to be devout. Their solution is to sacrifice themselves for the leader. And the system is how the whole cult works. And the dogma is the leader is always right. Right? So there's the cone, and they are trapped inside that cone.
Mm. Love that.
Oh, sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I just wanted us to really grasp that, because you really defined just about any protocol in our human existence. And, you know, the fact that this can be found, like you said, in as little as a one unit household to a whole government, you know, setup. That means we really need to be cognizant whenever this is happening to us and things of that nature. Now, this obviously for you has been your life's culmination of work and things like that. What's been the response to this when you say share it with people or are talking to people and really getting them to realize that they have been conned?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there are many responses. Um, a lot of people who read my book say, "Oh my God, it's like you read my life," right? Suddenly I realize all these things. Suddenly I see cones everywhere. That's what most people say. Suddenly, everywhere I look, there's a cone. And one of the things that I do is I work with organizations because I've developed a tool that diagnoses or measures the level of coneness. You can measure the level of coneness in your own life, in your partnership, in an organization, and in systems with this tool. And then they said, we started using the language, the taxonomy of the cone. Now we say, oh, is this our core certainty? We need to look at it and examine it. Or are we confusing symptoms with problems with symptoms? Are we coning our organization? So the responses where this is so relevant to everything. And now that I see it, I cannot unsee it. And that is the beauty of understanding the cone. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
Absolutely.
Once you recognize it, you're like, oh shit, this is a cone in my life. It controls me, it brainwashes me, it exploits me, it separates me, all of these things. And then there are people for whom it is so difficult. I have, I've had this book translated to Spanish, and I will publish it in Spanish in a few months so that it's more widely available to Spanish speakers as well, hopefully to more languages. One of my Spanish readers from Colombia, he is a professor in his late 70s. He's done a lot of work in sociology and political science. And for him, it was awakening, right? So I'm like, well, if someone who works in this field found this, that it had awakened him to this reality, but for him, it was so profound that he had to stop reading the book in the middle and take a break so that he can process his anger. Because one of the things that can happen to you is that when you realize that you've been controlled, that you've been lied to, that you've been duped, right? That you've been exploited, there's a lot of pain that comes with it. There's that sense of betrayal. There's that it can be earth-shattering for people.
Absolutely.
And so he took like 2 months break to process his emotions with this realization of the cones in his life. And only then he could continue reading it.
Absolutely. Now, thank you so much for opening this up because what you're bringing to light here is identity. And I think that's a core need for any human being to at least identify with who they are as a person, to identify with their country, to identify with their religion or whatever political affiliation that they are coming from. And what you're telling us right now is this has been systemically designed to just push some sort of idea or profit.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, look at what's happening now with world economy. Most of us are raised to believe that it is our governments that govern our countries. But actually, our governments are mostly puppets of big economic entities who are funding them, controlling them, and navigating their political decisions to profit them. It has always been there for hundreds of years, but it has become so much more powerful and vivid and unashamed, I call it. They have lost their shame. That now all these billionaires and oligarchs aren't even trying to hide their agendas, which is, by the way, one of the first signs of a cone that is about to burn. It is the beginning of the end of that kind of regime, is when the people at the top who control everyone and mess with everyone's brains from behind the scenes through lies are beginning to be so confident in their power, in their absolute power, that they stop hiding their corruption. That they start saying, what are you going to do about that? Yeah, I'm controlling you. I'm exploiting you. What are you going to do about that? Right? And you see that now with Elon Musk, right? Who was all that, everyone thought he was this brilliant inventor who wants to change the world and go to Mars and all that bullshit, where he is actually a Nazi. And all he wants is to control this world based on his racist, exploitive vision. And now in the inauguration, you saw him do the Nazi salute. Exactly. No shame, front and back, just in case you've missed it the first time, right? And so this is an example of a billionaire, and he's not the only one. There are more like him that are now coming out of their pretense of being benevolent, and they are saying, we control this world. We are the puppeteers. What are you going to do about it? And that is a sign of a big, big cone. I call it the mega cones, the mega controllers that control governments, that control. I mean, there is something that, whenever I would say it, 3-4 years ago, everything on my social media would go black. You couldn't even write the word COVID without being censored, right? But if you think about the COVID, the pandemic, what happened with the vaccines and all the hiding of the truths about science. I'm not talking conspiracies. I'm talking about scientific facts. How everyone who said there is something wrong with the science here, they were fired, they were silenced, they were censored. And only now, 5 years later, are these researchers are coming to light to show the enormous damage that has been caused by these vaccines. So, this is was a worldwide display of a megacone that controls everyone on a global scale. But here's the good news, because up till now I've been quite depressing, right? Here's the good news. No cone lasts forever. People in medieval times believed that kings and queens will be forever, that monarchies will exist forever. Well, we now know that no, monarchies fall, right? Even the monarchies that we still have nowadays are just performative, right? They're theater monarchies. They don't have power. In the same way, people nowadays say capitalism is forever. It's the way of life. That's how we are as human beings. It's eat or be eaten world. And that's the power of the market. But that is not true as well, because that too shall topple. I call it the emptying cone, because at a certain point, we wake up. At a certain point, enough of us, and a big enough number of us, say, we don't want that. This is wrong. Wake up. We can do better. And then we leave and do something different. Here's the trick, though. Here's the trick. Why do cones reincarnate? Why do we have one cone after the other after the other? So I will go back to my childhood. Communism. Communism was a big, big, nasty cone. And then there was no more communism. But the people who burned communism came out of it so angry and so impoverished and so vindictive that they built another solution that became the next cone. If you come out of an oppressive situation with an unhealed anger and vengeance, all you do is you bring these emotions into your next solution, which becomes the next cone. Here's a recent example: cancel culture. Think about cancel culture. It came from youth, which I'm a great believer in the future of our youth. No matter what you will say about Gen Z or Gen Alpha, they are the future, and I have great belief in them and in their ability to turn things around. But they are also already falling into the same trap of the cone. Cancel culture started with, we now have social media. We have power to say our words, to influence the world against bad people. You are a pedophile, you are a rapist, you are an offender, you are a racist. We will cancel you on social media, right? It's a powerful tool of the people to shut down people who are harmless, who are harmful. But then what happened with cancel culture? Because it was fueled by anger and hatred and vengeance, it has become the next cone. Now, everyone is on everyone's chopping block. Everyone can be canceled. You will say one thing that someone doesn't like, you're done, right? How is this not a cone? This is exactly a cone where you are silenced, where you have to comply, where you are always on someone's chopping block. So here's how we don't get there. When we leave a cone, when we realize that we are in a cone, first of all, don't try to change it. You cannot change a dog into a cat. It just won't work. You cannot change a cone from the inside, especially a very old, rigid cone. Leave and start something new and better. But when you leave, before you start the next thing, heal. Find ways to let go of the anger. Find ways to let go of that hatred of the betrayal that you've been betrayed, your trauma. Heal your trauma. Because if you don't, you just bring that poison into your next stage of your life.
It's like with any relationship. If you're going to be leaving one relationship and you bring whoever you were in that particular relationship, you still have the same sort of results. Now, all of this, I mean, obviously, now it makes sense, why your office looks like a bunker, because you literally have to
It's
you're
just
addressing
narrow and I have books.
you're addressing powerful systems that actually invite criticism. Now,
Oh, yeah.
how have you prepared for, or maybe dealt with, any of the backlash that might come from this? Because all of this that you're putting out in the open is making people realize the things that have been, stifling their growth, or, as we have said, systemic ways that are making them see the truth. Now, as an immigrant myself, I came to Australia, and I also started noticing a certain way of life around here which would never be seen in places that I've lived in. Okay. So the system has created so many safety nets for people, yet the people around are now using those safety nets as hammocks. And
Yeah.
they no longer can do anything to help themselves unless, somebody swings them from that hammock and then they feel alive a little bit. Well, how can people use this, and what can people do moving forward?
That's a very good and deep question that doesn't have one simple answer. I think that, but I love your visual, the safety net into a hammock. I've never heard that, and I'm buying I'm buying that. Um, you know, I think that na- people natural. First of all, there are different kinds of people, right? We have every variability you can imagine. We have humans can be the most devoted, kind, supportive, loving, and helping, or very selfish, all the way to sociopaths, right? The whole, everything exists. So there's no way to make everyone the same. And we don't want to make everyone the same either, because then life will be damn boring. So there will always be the doers, and there will always be a few users, right? Who will sort of piggyback on those who do for them. But that is actually not the basis of human nature. I think that what happens is that the systems in our society put out the joy that we can find in life. And it starts with even the education system. So think about the education system. The purpose of the formal education system is actually not so much education as it is conformity. It teaches children not to be critical thinkers. It teaches them to conform, comply, to get used to workplace hours. Think about that. It is the most unnatural way for children to learn is to sit for 6 or 8 hours a day and read and write. It is unnatural for children. Children have to run. They have to learn by doing, by trying, by falling, by cooking, by doing, right? Children learn by doing. And yet all our educational system took out all the doing and all the movement out of our childhood. So then children who can't stand that are problematic, right? So it starts there, where you take the joy out of what a human being should be. And it moves them to the next level of workplaces. Well, throughout our history, being an employee is actually a new concept. It is not a historical concept. People worked on their farm, people worked on, building things. They did everything as a community, as a tribe, as a village. People did all kinds of things based on their personal abilities. So you would raise a child, let's say in a village, and a child who was really good at doing things with their hands, that's what they did, and that's what they were encouraged to do. not to learn trigonometry. And the children who were really good in thinking and planning, that's what they did, you know? And the children who were great at farming, that's what they did. Now, you bring everyone into the same mold of constricted existence. And then people whose joy of doing was sucked out of them, they reach that point where they say, I don't give a damn. You know what? This life sucks. I'm going to take whatever I can for free, and that's it. Right? So it's not because people are parasites. It's because they are not given true meaning to their lives. And so they're saying, I don't want to do this job like a slave for 12 hours a day and get pennies on the dollar, and then, you know, need food stamps because my full-time job doesn't sustain me. That's just not a fair world. I don't want that, you know? So I'm going to find ways to work the system. So that's what you find. So it's not a simple answer. It's not like there are the bad people who exploit the supportive system. The problem is bigger than that.
Mm.
But if you take these people and if you put them into a small, self-sustaining community and you say, we all grow our food, we all build our homes, we all take care of the children, we are all, you know, taking care of each other's safety, I promise you, they will not be lying on their hammocks. They will find that joy of meaning.
Mm. Absolutely. Now, I don't know about you, Dr. Nava, but I'm working right now. I'm at work. So,
Oh, me too.
yeah, great stuff.
But
Now, for
we
those,
have joy
yeah,
in what we do.
and for those that are looking, for alternatives or just might find what you are telling us today, as as a way of bettering themselves. What is it that they can expect to get when they work with you, and what would be the best way that people can get a hold of you?
So just to clarify, I don't do individual consulting or coaching. That is not my thing. I'm actually looking to empower others, to empower others. So I'm looking to distribute the ability. The very basic thing that people can do is either read the book if it's, if it is something that interests them, or go on my website and read a short version of it. And then on my website, they can also access a self assessment of how vulnerable you are to manipulation. And what is it that makes you vulnerable to manipulators? Because that is the heart of cones, is you are being manipulated. So if you know where your vulnerability is to manipulation, you will be more aware of who's doing it to you, how they are doing it, right? So you can download it for free. It's a self questionnaire, and within probably 6 months, I will be coming out with an online courses where you will actually be able to take this course with me, and I will walk you through step by step through a truly in-depth self-diagnostic, or a diagnostic of you as a couple, or a diagnostic of you as an organization, where you will find all the issues that will trip you into a cone. So that is coming up. But
Absolutely.
if anyone who wants to connect with me, who wants to contribute ideas, to chat, you are welcome to go on my website. There's a contact form. I'm not a snob. I love talking to people, and meeting, like-minded big thinkers, or
Absolutely.
just
Well,
people with questions.
Well, that is quite evident there, Dr. Neva, because yeah, we've had a really good chat here, and just getting to know and explore, your life story and your experience and how you've put it all together into a simple model that people can actually now start identifying. As I've said earlier on, people can't see the air that they breathe, and it's only up until somebody comes in and says, "Hey, wait a minute, there's something wrong with the situation," that you start noticing that, wait a minute, something needs to be done. But when you started this conversation, Dr. Neva, you introduced us to a kid that was looking at a painting of Lenin, who to other kids it symbolizes, this is what you're supposed to be doing, this is who you're supposed to become, and this is the only way of being. Yet you saw a different view to that particular environment. There's a lot of people that are within their family, within their country, within their own religion. They're also being forced to look at photos that no longer represent where they want to go. What is like the one simplest thing that one can do, because the worst thing that could happen is alienate yourself from the people that you thought you belonged to, but which keeps people in the same place. Is there a simple thing that somebody can just do so they are not controlled?
Thank you. um, yes, there is a psychological phenomena where we think that we are alone in our thoughts, in our views. And because we think that we're the only ones who think that, we don't speak about it with anyone. And so everyone thinks that they are alone in it. Okay. And that is an illusion. So think about a religion, yeah, like in a highly religious congregation. Not everyone in that congregation feels in agreement with everything that's going on there, with the messages, with the punitive environment, with the constrictive environment, or whatever it is that congregation does. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not against religion, I'm just against extremism. I'm against coned religions. And let's say that out of the 50 people in that congregation, 10 might have their doubts. But if none of these 10 speak up to someone about their doubts, they will think they are the only one because they won't know about the other 9. So here's the simple solution. The simple solution is to actually come out, right? It is to speak about that. It is to raise this issue. And then suddenly you discover you're not alone. There are others who were afraid to speak up. But now that you spoke, they're like, oh, me too. And me too. Think about literally the movement of Me Too. That is exactly what happened, right? One woman came out and spoke courageously, and another woman said, it happened to me too. And then there was a wave of women who said, damn it, I didn't know that I was allowed to say that I'm not alone in this, right? So that is the first step, is yes, it can cause us damage. That's why we need courage. Nothing is free. And then I will go further away. Once you decide to make the move of getting out of your personal closet, right? Whatever that closet may be, to become a nonconformist, to become a troublemaker, where you speak your truth, you might pay a price, and you must know it. But here's the thing. Every price will also come with a bonus. And then you will have to weigh your options. Sometimes when you are, let's say, a child of abusive parents. They can be emotionally abusive, unloving, or manipulative. You feel unloved. You feel like the black sheep. What is the worst thing that can happen to you? The worst thing that can happen to you is if you stay,
Mm.
because that will be a permanent poison in your life. We are raised to believe that families are sacred. You do not abandon your own. Blood is thicker than water. All these things, which is true when it's a healthy family. But when it is a toxic family, it is a lie. It is a lie that keeps you in a toxic environment. And so sometimes the brave thing is to leave. It is a price, because you might leave your family behind and it will be a crisis. But where is the bonus? The bonus is a rebirth. The bonus is that now you find your family of choice. You find friends that are supportive. You find a partner that is loving. You stay away from the poison that keeps you down, that controls you, that oppresses you. And eventually you will heal from that. And you will look at that as a distant memory of the bad times you've had. And you will say to yourself, it was painful to leave, but it was worth it. It
Mm.
gave me a new life. And that is the one thing that I will say, because that courage to speak up and leave a cone, whatever this cone is, that is the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Nava, I can't thank you enough. First of all, for the time we've spent on the show today. But second of all, I think you have single handedly given people permission to be, do, and have a happier existence. So many people are caught up in the dogma of in sickness and in health, in allegiance to the country, in all of those things that seemingly are loose and give an illusion of choice, whereas
Mhm.
people are really caught up in webs of control that they can never escape unless they actually take the actions that you have spelled out for us today. So on behalf of anyone who's watching this right now and is thinking of, wow, this is new and profound, I really, really thank you, because you have given people perspective and permission, which they too can jump on and start living and having a happier existence. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this stage. And thank you for your interesting and insightful questions that led this whole conversation. It's been a delight to be your guest.
I appreciate you. Now, as we conclude this insightful conversation with Dr. Nava Israel, we're reminded of the power of resilience, the importance of community, and also the courage it actually takes for us to challenge oppressive systems. Sometimes we might not see the golden handcuffs that we have around our hands. It takes somebody who's been there, done that, and seen it all to point it out to you that, hey, are you that free? Are you that comfortable in that zone that you can't step out and actually see the trees from the forest? So if today's discussion resonated with you, I want you to consider sharing this episode with somebody who might benefit from these insights. And I think there's a lot of us that might actually benefit from these insights. And also, share with us how you resonated with it in the comments below. And for those that are joining the Online Prosperity Show for the very first time, stay tuned for our next episode where we're going to be exploring ideas to enhance your happiness and well being. And don't forget to subscribe for more thought provoking content. I want you to remember that the journey to a better future actually just begins with the first step. And I think Dr. Nava Israel has given us that first step today. Bye for now.